sense of your friends. But my network, pretty much everyone I know is now inside Facebook, and if there's an event on, it's being organised through Facebook largely. So housewarming parties or art exhibitions or any of these kind of things. But all of that information is actually closed, so you can't Google search any of it, or other non-branded search, again, product placement. So that, I think that's the tension at the moment. And yeah, it's a hard one, and I think the only way you can approach it from a development perspective is you become cross-platform social media developers, which I know this is paid by Facebook. Sorry, Facebook, but I think that's some of the reality, because the fact is, 18 months ago, no one thought MySpace would be knocked off the top of the tree, and it has been, essentially. For all intents and purposes, Facebook has taken over from MySpace now as a true social networking tool. So, that in 18 months will be at the insert here garage, and, it could well be. But I think the actual core platform architecture is going to stay reasonably static now. Facebook has solved those problems. So a lot of the ones that are coming out, open social, they're essentially the same deal. So that helps. And it's a roundabout way of not answering your question, I think.
That's all right.
Also, from the marketing perspective, it's a case of old school and new school thoughts. When MySpace had a problem, they look at, okay, I need to basically come up with a communication that is a damage control. But when Beacon was a failure in Facebook, Marcus basically said, yes, we made a mistake of Beacon and they pulled it off. So they were quick to respond to negative sentiments that is being sent from the Facebookers. So there is a difference in style of managing the site also. That also helps. So if the Facebook is able to change their ways quickly, then it's going to stay for longer.
The only thing I'd comment on that is the comparison between the social media environment of Facebook versus the virtual environment of, say, Second Life, which you could say Second Life's been described as, say, the Wild West. So it's completely open and free reign, and although many brands have been in there and immersed themselves and felt compelled to be in there and dip their toe in the water, there has been some. There are more dangers, I think, in such an environment compared with not a regulated environment, but a controlled environment in a social, it's a closed door environment. So at least there's greater context in there. It's a free for all in a virtual environment, and just as Facebook and MySpace have had issues, I mean, the owners of Second Life have had issues such as gambling, things like that. So, from a product placement point of view, one of the issues that we have to look at when we assess content is does the brand positioning in the content, is it going to be favourable to the brand? So we have to look at that. So again, I guess from a branded virtual good application, a brand would be very mindful as to who its audience is. So the contents, the environment of Facebook is perhaps more appealing in that sense.
Might just move along. I notice in the audience we have a person who's actually launching a real-life social network. Tara Strong's joining us today. I wonder if I might put a question to Tara. How have you used social networks to launch your real-life social network peer-to-peer? Or have you totally ignored it, or are you using the likes of Facebook and MySpace to launch your social network?
Well, in terms of the marketing strategy, I really didn't want to create a Facebook group until I had more content. So I haven't used it to launch it. I've used my own social networking skills for whatever they might be. But I definitely will be creating a Facebook group for it and using it to market the events.
Okay. All right. Interested in hearing more people's backgrounds in terms of their interaction with Facebook. Who's using Facebook at work here? I'm just wanting to get an understanding of how people are using Facebook at work, if at all. You all are.
No.
You all are. Does anyone care to explain
All I
their
do
use
is
at
work.
work? Yep.
I'm Keegan Street. I work at Deloitte. I'm building a Facebook application for Deloitte for recruitment. And so Deloitte use a referral process internally so employees can refer their friends on who they think would be good employees at Deloitte. And so I'm building an application so the friends can actually ask for a referral. So Deloitte employees might get these requests from their friends saying, can you refer me to Deloitte? And where do you think I'd fit in there? So.
Just a quick question. Are you working with Peter Williams at all at Deloitte Digital? Right, okay. We look forward to inviting Peter to a future garage, if I may. Fantastic. Now, do any of our panellists have questions for our audience or would like to add to?
I'd just like to say that the Facebook chat has prevented me from doing work recently. I don't know. That's kind of off topic, but it's like the worst news for productivity.
How so? Give me an example of your disruption.
I've got a normal instant messenger, but I've got like business contacts and a few close friends in instant messenger. But now, however many friends you have suddenly appear. It's like, I haven't spoken to you since high school. How's it been? It's like, great. So it's a debacle, really, I think, personally. That's how I feel about the chat system.
You can switch that on and off, though, I notice. There is that function. Like Skype, you can switch Skype on and off.
Yeah, true. That is true.
Right.
Anyway.
Any other experiences or recommendations for Facebook to take into consideration in terms of turning off applications or functions? I can see that Toby would quite revolutionise the likes of chat. Okay. Now, if I was a small business, Toby, what would I do? I had $10,000 and I wanted to take my business online and take up a presence on Facebook. Would I go to a developer and say, look, spend $5,000 on an off-the-shelf product and then $5,000 adapting that to my business? Or would you just go along and plonk $10,000 in the lap of a developer like yourself and say, look, go out and research what's best and build from scratch? What's your inclination there with, say, a small business?
My inclination is obviously the latter, which gives me $10,000. But knowing what I do about small business, I doubt they would ever sponsor free-form research. And they actually become that. I think the hard part for some of this is not every business needs to be inside Facebook. It's the same. Like, not every business needs to have a television commercial, or it's much the same thing. But people seem to forget when a new technology or a new technique comes through, suddenly everyone wants that. So it's a real, it's both a danger and an opportunity there for everyone. And I mean, you guys know more about the marketing than me. So
it's becoming more prominent. At present, there's 30% of Facebookers are professionals. It used to be only the college graduates. Now it's 30% professionals, and there's more and more B2B activities are happening on Facebook. So it's becoming a real place for commerce.
Any other comments on those lines? Okay. All right. I was speaking with a member of the audience before. I forgot your name. Is it Angela? Angela. Angela was interrogated when she was considering coming into today's garage, and I took her aside and I said, Angela, look, come in and join the garage. You'll learn about applications. You'll learn about how to use Facebook and whatnot. And I was surprised to find she was very open and candid. And Angela, you were saying that you have very few applications on Facebook on your profile. And then I asked that curly question, is what application would you like to see? So I just want to open it up there for the creative side of your brains to maybe share some ideas that you might have, whether they're patent or not. Hopefully they're not. Just with what sort of application you think would take off. You mentioned something outside.
Well, I actually study songwriting, so as I was saying to you, I'd like to be able to put